All right, peeps. Welcome to Coach's Chronicle with yours truly, Coach Peters. Man, this is something that, to be honest, I've been kind of waiting on doing for a while. Coach Peters is the person that I morphed into post college, right? I was once a student athlete. I had my turn at it, trying to ascend up the heights like everybody else, but that ultimately ended. And whenever it ended, I had to do something else. But before we begin and before we get too far into it, if you're new to this channel, if you're new to what you're seeing, please hit that button, that subscribe button, and make sure you turn on the bell notification so that you can get all of the things that come to you. Anytime I drop anything, whether it be something from the pod or it be some of my other videos that'll be coming, and there's a lot of them coming. So I'd like to make you a member. I'd like to say welcome to this pod. It's going to be exciting. Now, before we begin, I felt like I had to remember what it was like the transition, right? When I left from being a player and became a coach. So I'm gonna take y'all back, and we're gonna go back in history. We're gonna go way back. We're gonna take forever to get there, but we're gonna get there. Now, it was 2013. I just finished up at Texas Southern, and I had no idea what I wanted to do, right? Like most college students. My only goal was be the one that graduates. I had that exciting target to be the first person in my family to be the person that graduates. So I made sure I was. And I did graduate. Super duper exciting experience for me. 3.5 years, I was out of there, right? But when it was over, I didn't have no idea what was next. So one of my friends, one of my best friends, Harry, put me on to becoming an Apollo, right? This is something like a paraprofessional in education. And I got to working at the school and I realized I like what I did. And then next thing you know, I was volunteering as a coach and then boom, I was one. And just like that. And it was something that I did not know I wanted to do. I didn't. Like most people, I did not know I wanted to be a coach. But boom, I fell in love with it because it kept me around the game I just left. And it was exciting being able to teach kids things that they didn't know and to help them further their athletic journey. So why not, right? So that transition was cool, right? And there were times I did miss the game, but the more I did it, like it was just something so exciting to be able to walk into. And it was an amazing journey. Like there were some highs and lows, some learning curves, right? Like in all things. But the transition, and I know a lot of athletes, like whenever we're done, we don't really know what's next, right? We don't really have an idea of like how to now identify ourselves in this new realm, in this new life that we're in. And sometimes we might get caught in a space where we don't know where we're going. But the thing that for all athletes who are about to transition, whether it be this upcoming fall, this spring semester, or whatever, make sure it's something that you already like to do. Make sure it's something that you're passionate about because it won't feel like it's work. And that's what coaching feels like for me. It feels like it's just second nature. Like I don't even have to think when I'm doing it. It's amazing, right? And so the transition, it was, I would say for me, pretty smooth. Uh, because when I was done being an athlete, I was done. I was like, hey man, it's still hard to this day. Like I don't miss getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning having a mandatory workout. I can tell you that right now. I do not miss that, but I do like to coach it. It's something when you're the person with the whistle versus not being the person with the whistle. You feel excited, right? But I don't. My days were done. I did what I needed to do, and I moved on. And so now I'm reaching back. I'm giving back to those who are coming up behind me, who can be better than me in so many different ways because every day as an educator and as a teacher and as a coach, I learn. I just look for new nuances. I pick up on something from this person, this person, this person. I'm like a gumbo pot, man. I just keep looking for more ingredients to make the soup stronger. So that's what I do, right? That's my transition. And so after after you transition and you take that step off, right? Because one of the things I want to make sure I highlight in this pod is these are my chronicles. These are things that I look back on, right? And things that I've learned. It was becoming a coach. That was a whole nother nuance for me that I did not know about, right? Because when I first started out, I was in high school and I am 22 years old. Well, I don't know if you're a math person, but when you're 22, the senior is at 17. That's really close in age, right? And so some of the times what I didn't understand was how to separate coach and player, right? Early on. I also had to understand film a little bit differently. I had to understand scheme. I had to understand strategy. I had to understand drills, purposeful work, like all of those things that you don't really think about when you're an athlete. You know, when you're an athlete, a drill just feels like, sometimes it may feel like this. I'm not speaking for all, personal experience. When I was an athlete, a drill felt like a drill because I didn't know why I was doing it. I felt like we were just doing some work and coach was about to bust our tail. So that's what it felt like for me. And I didn't understand the transition sometimes from the drill to what we actually do. So that makes it like, okay, it just feels like reps, 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 reps. But I don't understand why we're doing it. What's the purpose in it? So when you become a coach and it's time for planning and it's time for exercise and it's time for orchestrating what it is y'all going to do for the day, you have to learn to make sure that what we're working on transitions to the game. Like, this isn't something for just clicks. This is something we're doing for the game. And the other thing I had to learn too, right, was scheming and schematics, all that. Like, because for me as an athlete, I was given some gifts and ability through just athletic ability, right? But athletic ability only gets you so far because it was never drilled in me when I was coming up to be an ultimate student of the game. When I became a coach, I became a student. And the more that I'm becoming a student, even to now, it makes me a better coach. Like, I don't never put a limitation on my brain on how much I want to work at this or how much I want to be good at this and how much I want to help others be good at this, whether it's new coaches, old coaches, whether it's new athletes, seasoned athletes. Like, I'm just a student at all time and I want to pass on the information. So when it came to scheme, right? And this is the thing that I think of now. I want to always put somebody in the best position for them to be successful, for them to get the best out of what it is they're doing. And for them to ultimately, because if it's team concept, of course it's in line with the team goal, but I want them to be in a position to where they can go off, man. They can show what they're made of. Not just, I just got you here in this spot. Like I'm just trying to hide you, or you're on the field just because I got to put you out there, excuse me. And like when you understand that, right, that's only certain parts of being a coach, right? You also got to understand how to identify your team's weaknesses and make sure that the other team can't find them to build their strengths. You got to also understand how to, whether if it's, let's stay with football. If it's football and the team that you're preparing for that week is in an odd front, and you got to understand what best plays within your playbook is going to make y'all successful against the odd front. Or on the vice versa side, if you are the defensive coordinator and you do run an odd front, you got to make sure that you see what packages where you'll have certain players in that be able to come back whenever they go to a certain set or an offensive formation that will be able to beat that set. See, the thing that most people fall into the bad trap of, some people are playing checkers while others are playing chess. I'm a chess player when it comes to the game. I want to make sure that you can never find my weakness. I want to be 3 steps ahead of you. I want to make sure my athletes understand what's going on, not just because I said be over there, but understand why you need to be over there and understand what a guy next to you needs to do what he needs to do. Because if he doesn't do what he needs to do, it takes one person in a team format to mess up everything. And you don't never want them to be that one. one of the things I coach and tell them, don't be the one. Don't be the one. Don't be the one for the wrong reason. All right. So make sure that you're doing your job. And, becoming a coach, those are things that I've learned over the years, right? But when I became one initially, I had to I had to learn some things. Like interpersonal relationships, you have to understand that this is a relationship business. If a kid don't trust you, he ain't doing nothing for you. It ain't happening. You can forget about it. He ain't doing it. If it's only so much you're gonna get out of him. It's only so much in a way that you can talk to him to where it's gonna hit home. Like if that kid is not with you, it's not going down, dog. And like it just ain't happening. You also got to understand too how to be on a different set of team with a different adults, right? Because on a coaching staff, it's a collection of if so many different type of people, right? Like you may have a coach who is the rah-rah coach. You may have a coach over here who's like a very, laid back conservative type of guy who doesn't really scream and yell. You know what I mean? Might be an analytic type of dude, right? Or you may have, you know, it just be a different balance of that. We got three people who are the energy guys, and we got three people who are low energy guys, and then we got a head coach who is kind of like mild temperature that's in between them. So you're figuring out, where do I stand? And just like what you were as an athlete, when you figured out your role, you have to figure out your role on a team too of coaches. So when you become a coach, don't just simplify yourself, or demagnify yourself to a place to where you're so small and your role is not going to be important. Everybody's role is important in any type of field where you're in a team. So never forget that, right? And so that's very important to do. And to anybody out there who's about to step into the coaching realm and you're doing this for the first time, always remember why you did it, why you're doing it. Okay. Never settle. Don't feel little in any rooms. Stand on what it is that you do and what you do well. Somebody may holler, I got 18 years of experience. 18 years of experience don't mean jack. You can be doing this for 18 years and you can have a losing record. So if you understand what winning looks like, don't run away from that. If you were bred through a system that showed you what winning and sacrifice breeds, don't run away from that just because you're stepping into a new occupation and you don't understand what it is you're doing. You learn throughout the way. There's going to be bumps and there's going to be bruises. And you'll figure it out. Always analyze what works and what don't work so that you'll know where you need to go with this. So, good luck to anybody out there who's becoming a coach, and just take the good with the bad and just keep pushing, just like you did when you were an athlete and you transitioned. And now, let's look back on some lessons learned in these earlier times. One of the things I really had to learn how to do is control my attitude. Oh, man. There were times, dude, I got some moments over the years where I'm blew up, right? With coaches and players. And it's all part of the game. It's par for the course, like they always say. You got to understand what it is and you got to understand what it is that you're doing, right? And you got to know when to be this and when not to be that. So you're like, Coach, what are you talking about? What are you talking about? All right, for example, right? So I've been in games where I've lost it on on a kid. And that lost it may have came from like me looking at it from an athletic standpoint and not a coach standpoint. I'm going to dive on that. So what I mean by that is I'm wondering why, like, off our ability, you just couldn't do it, right? But instead, I didn't look at it from schematically. He could have just been out of position. You see what I'm saying? Or like he didn't understand the formation, or his alignment is wrong, or he slanted the wrong way, or he wasn't playing the right defense. You understand what I'm saying? So it's over the years, I learned to get away from that, right? You have to understand every person and every kid that you talk to and teach along this journey ain't nowhere near on the same road, right? Some of them get there faster, some of them get them slower. And However they get there, it's your job to make sure that you're steering them in the right way. You don't want to steer them from a place of just annoyance. You don't want transference of angers going from one athlete to the next because you can't communicate the right way. That's not what you want. So you got to make sure that you always are a coach. You're a leader. I always ask questions that are just the simple questions that they taught us in English language arts. Who, what, when, where, why, and how. Ask those type of questions. Who was supposed to be there? Why wasn't he there? Right? What are you supposed to do when you get there? How are we supposed to stop that? Why didn't we stop that? Ask questions that provide answers. You need to know what's in their brain and to understand why and how at all times. And so over the years, those are like things I had to learn how to get better at and how to be able to lead kids in that direction. Another thing I had to learn is that as I harp back on the last thing when becoming a coach, understanding the different personalities of the business. Not all of us are the same. Not all of us come from the same place. Not all of us came from the same things. So remember, this business is about relationships. You're going to be around these people more than anybody in life sometimes, these athletes and these coaches. Worst thing you want to do is have a bad blood or feel a certain way, right? I think it's very important, just like an office, just like a locker room, is to understand the common ground and to be able to, accept people for who they are and where they come from and be with them, whatever it is they do. Understand who they are as people. And so that was something I had to do, right? And now the one thing I do is I analyze everybody I work with before we even get to the heat of the battles, right? I ask type certain, like database questions for myself, like just understanding like, hey, what's your athletic background like? Did you play here? Did you play collegiately? Did you only play in high school? When you did play in high school, what type of high school was it? What type of system did y'all run? Okay, so what didn't you understand? Have you ever worked with kids before? It's your first time. Where have you worked? You know what I mean? Questions that give you answers before you get to any certain situations. And when you understand those things about the people you work next to, it helps you guys be able to work better. And also answering questions too about who I am as a person. Like one thing about me is the closer I get to competition, the more I amplify. Like because I'm the ultimate competitor. I hate to lose. I do not like it. Sometimes it makes me feel like just terrible and sick. I don't even want to. I don't want to talk to nobody until we get the next one in. Right? I wish we can run it back like right then, but we can't. But that's the reality. But I do not like to lose, like at all, when it comes to competition. I don't care what we're playing. It can be a game I never even played before. I don't like it. So, and anybody who close to me know that about me, and that's just what it is. I mean, I've never told somebody they were better than me. I just don't know how to say it. No matter what the public may think or what anybody else around me said, I ain't never told nobody that because the moment that I feel like the moment that I say it, I believe it. And I don't ever want to be that person. So I keep that same energy when I'm a coach. Like whoever I'm around, whether you have 30 years in this business, whether you have 2 years in this business, I stand on who I believe I am as an individual and as a coach and what I can bring to the table. So I make sure that I'm confident and am also studious when I'm around you because I don't want to feel so overconfident that it comes off as arrogance. And that's a place you don't want to find yourself in any kind of field, not just coaching, but anything you're doing. So make sure that whatever it is that you're talking about or who you're listening to, who you're with, it makes sense, right? So those are some of the just, small lessons learned that I've come to get better at over the years, right? And every year, even if I have a good year, I just analyze it and look back and like, there's something in there that I can work on, that I can change, and that I can get better with from next year for the next group of kids that I may work with, or the next group of individuals I may work, whether that's grown men or women or men, no matter whoever it is. I mean, if I'm in a classroom, whatever, right? So those are things that I really focus on, just being grounded in and just, just getting better. And I just love this profession. So, and that'll do it, for this first one, right? And the transition. I mean, from becoming that player to the coach, those are the three things. I mean, your transition when you become the coach and the lessons learned, it's an amazing thing. Now, this next portion right here, this portion gonna be so fun and it's exciting, but it's introductory today, so it's understandable. Now, there are certain things that you may see on the screen right now. You see my different social media handles, my Instagram, you see the YouTube, and you may see also the X, Twitter, whatever you want to call it, right? I love to do Q&A. And at any given time, whenever you see one of these things, please shoot me a Q&A. I may ask the day before the episodes might be coming out, like, hey, shoot me some Q&As so that this is a segment that we can hit on and just talk about, right? And answer some questions. It could be, sports related when it comes to sports now, like where we are, right? So this is a very fun thing that I want to do and make sure that we always highlight, right? The next segment too, before we get out most of the time, I want to make sure I have some historical highlights for you. Now, today, we don't have one. It's just an introduction to the segment so that you understand that in the future, I always want people to know when it comes to football and basketball, you got to understand your history. You don't come play a game or get involved into a game, you don't even understand what it is that you're talking about, right? Or just, learning from. For me, I don't want to do anything and I don't have no clue what it is about. Like when it started, what was the first team, who got the most this, something, right? Just some type of history to always be with you. Don't spend time on something you don't even understand what it is, right? And so now, for the close, I want to thank you for sitting down with me, for listening to this episode. For me, this is a very special pod because it's me. It's Coach P. It's Jockway P. This is who it is, man. And this is the guy, that I am. And one thing I always had to tell myself, one of my best friends, my big bro, gave me this nugget, Mr. Get Right Training. He told me, remember, you were this guy before you were this guy. And always bring that guy with this guy so that he ascends. And so when you going forward in your path, remember you were always this first. Remember you had that dream first before you had that dream. And bring that along the way in everything you do, and you will always be successful. The call to action today is to tell a friend, to tell a friend, to tell a friend. Go ahead and make sure that you hit the subscribe button right there. It's right there on the screen. A little bitty button is right there. It's right there. Just hit the button. Hit the button. Subscribe. Just make sure you subscribe. It's going to be fun, man. We're going to have a good time. And so I appreciate y'all, and I'm out, man. Coach P.